Okay, so Susan is on the Zoom, and I can see she's got her beautiful harp there. And we're going to use the harp music to back our time in meditation. And maybe we can begin now. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Susan. That's such a beautiful part of the class and just a beautiful way to begin. And it helps me settle down and hopefully everyone else too. I'm going to mute you now. You probably know that's about to happen. I can't see. Yeah. And then when you're ready, come up to a standing position. And welcome everybody. I don't know if I said that before. We've got Daniel in the room, in the yoga shed, and Doreen and Judy and my friend Libby, who's visiting from Northern Rivers. So we have two streams going on. So while you're standing on your mat, just take a moment, maybe have your feet a little bit apart just for more stability, and allow yourself to relax in a comfortable posture. Relax your shoulders and soften a little bit behind your knees, and relax your buttock muscles. And we'll do a very simple breathing exercise. And let's just start with your arms out to the side at shoulder height. And that little bit of elevation through your shoulder blades to open up your chest. And then turn your palms up and turn your arms out just at the top of your arms. And connect that movement with your upper back and your shoulder blades. And then let's extend the arms up overhead, palms facing in, and reaching up. And then turning your hands out and lowering the arms back down to where you started. And let's strike a breath rhythm that has you start your inhalation when you raise your arms a little bit before you start the movement, and then finish the movement, and then finish the inhalation when your arms are overhead. And let's begin. And then exhaling first, and then starting the movement and lowering the arms back down. And finishing the exhalation after the movement stopped. And I think in this process, you begin to slow the breathing down, but not so much that at any point the breath becomes stressful. So I'll let your breath start, the movement start. The movement stops, the breath goes on a little bit. And we'll continue like that for just a few more rounds. And fully into your body and feeling the sensations, not only of the movement, but the influence of the breath. And after you've completed this round, just do one more. And then let's see what it would be like to do a slightly different movement and still keep to the idea that the movement is sandwiched between the breath cycles. So along with me, bring your arms forward and up. Inhale, palms are facing forward now. Movement stops, a little more inhalation. Exhalation begins, and lowering the arms. When your arms come all the way back, bring them back a little bit behind the line of the body. Turn your palms forward, just a shoulder and wrist rotation, and then scooping up. So palms upward so you reach the top, and then palms forward and down for another cycle. See what there is to discover in that movement, maybe more in the dorsal thoracic. I find I'm coaxing the breath right up to the collarbones, the corners of the collarbones when I'm inhaling. Just see what there is for you to discover in your own breath rhythm. Maybe imagine that when you raise your arms, the air is a little bit heavier, which it sort of is today with the rain pattern. And last round. And when your arms finally come down, just shake your hands out a little bit, wrists and elbows and shoulders, and knees relaxed. And then let's come to lying down position on your mat. You'll be on your back. And see, we're going to be using a strap and block in today's practice, so have them nearby. And then in the spirit of waking up the pelvis somewhat, have your legs straight out and your arms by your side, and enough space behind you so you can do an overhead stretch. Flex your feet and draw your toes back towards your knees and extend the back of the leg. And then reverse that and point your toes away and start to bring your arms up and overhead and towards the floor beyond you. You don't have to take your arms all the way down. It just depends on reading your body and seeing if that movement's available to you. And then let's keep going. So alternating between flexing your feet and then pointing your toes away and extending the arms back behind you. And there are a few elements in this, so not quite as simple as it seems in the beginning. And that would be that you're framing the movement with the breath again. So slowing the breath down somewhat, but within your comfortable range. And then as you go along, see what there is to discover in connecting this with any movement through your pelvis. And not only the pelvis, but feeling that right at the base of the pelvis and the sitting bones, and any movement there. Right, and then just one more round, an overhead stretch. And finishing with your arms by your side again, and your feet just relaxed, your ankles relaxed. Let's do Apanasana. So bend one leg into your chest, the other leg into your chest. Grab hold at the front of your knees. Just take a moment there without any movement, just in kind of a, upside down child's pose. Your hands resting lightly onto your knees. And beginning movement here and allowing the knees to move out and the arms to straighten and knees in. And in the alternating movement, the hip flexion, the hip extension there. Again, feel what there is to discover in the movement throughout the whole pelvis. And how does the breath connect with that? And then let's see what that movement is like as you continue. And if you like, just your arms by your side. So now you're imprinted with that movement, knees closer to your chest, knees away. It's supportive to have your hands on your knees, so keep them there if that works better for you. A little compression, and feel that through the navel area as you bring your knees in. All right, good. And then with your knees close to you, then for the maybe health of your back, do a few knee circles. Rotating through the knees, the legs, the hips, and the base of the spine, and the other way now. In a little while, we'll be doing some standing poses. So let's warm up the legs for stretching. Have your left foot onto the floor. Keep your right knee towards you, and then slip your hands behind the back of the right knee and extend the leg up towards the ceiling. And alternating now between flexing the knee and extending the knee. Bending the knee towards your chest and extending. It's not necessary to extend the hamstrings completely here. So you might keep a small knee bend, but just explore the movement for yourself. And then work with a little bit of resistance. Let's see if we can wake up some of the muscles of the thigh and the hip. So as you extend the leg up towards the ceiling, push up against an imaginary resistance, like a sandbag over the sole of your foot. And pushing up. There's weight through the sandbag, so pushing up against that resistance. What is there to explore in the work of the thigh muscles, the hip muscles? Right? And then while we're there, and now we'll keep the leg extended and pause for a moment in movement. Rotate your ankle. I'm doing something that feels particularly nice for my ankle movement. Not just your ankle, your foot bones, your toes, not so much your leg if you can avoid that. And then rotate the other way. Good. And then release the foot back to the floor. Pause there. Feel that the sacrum rests fairly evenly on the floor. And then bend your left knee in. And let's start that cycle of working the back of the leg stretch, alternately bending and straightening. Noticing what there is for you on this side in this movement. Right, and then let's see what we can do with resistance. So extending the leg and pushing up. Against that sandbag weight. And more important than the movement is really staying with the sensations that occur for you as you do the movement. Right? And then holding at the back of your knee and rotating your ankle. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm getting a little clicking of my ankle on this side. You might experience that for yourself. So all of the bones of your foot, all of the toes rotating. Good. And then bring that foot back to the floor. And while we're here, let's do some of the bridge poses. And you'll do this if you have a block nearby. And we're going to do this in a few different ways. So if you have one of these foam blocks that works really well, and you would have it on your narrow end, and then have the block between the knees on that narrow end and your feet quite close together. So here's an opportunity for us to work with the whole of the spine and bring awareness there. So just with your feet on the floor, experiment with what it would be like to press your feet really strongly into the floor now without lifting your hips. So using what strength you have to press in the whole outline of your foot and then releasing from the effort. So as simple as that movement is, there's a complex of movements that occurs. So see what there is to discover there, perhaps in the tilt of the pelvis. And pressing into your feet again and releasing. Notice if even in that simple movement, you've clenched the buttocks near to the tailbone. And if so, release that to whatever extent you can. And then repeat the movement without that tightening and pressing into the feet, pressing against the block and relaxing. All right, with your block this way, let's see what it's like now to lift into the small bridge and pressing more lightly into your feet and starting to lift up. And allow the arms to turn out to, I feel I can open the top of my chest a little bit more. And then lowering down in a slow fashion to rest again. All right, and then take the block out, and you could be using a cushion here if you don't have a suitable block, and then have the block on the medium range and place it between your knees. Let's just try that movement. What's it like? Is it any different when you press your feet into the mat and without lifting the buttocks now? See what happens there and relax. And again. And relaxing. Notice if you tightened up around the coccyx. And one more time pressing. And then from here, begin to start to lift off. And you are coming up slowly along the spinal column, still pressing against the block, and then articulating the spine to come back to full resting position. And allow for that. The buttocks are relaxed, your shoulders are relaxed. And then let's experiment with a wide position. So with the block between the knees or the thighs, and stepping out your feet almost as wide as the mat. And then coming through those 3 cycles and pressing. And releasing fully. Let's do one last of those. And then as you press into the feet and that light pressure against the block and coming off the ground and all the way up. And I notice that I can come up a little bit higher towards the shoulders or the base of my neck this way. Let's see what's there for you. And then lowering down, releasing the tension around the tailbone if that's occurring, and all the way to rest. All right, and then without any prop, leave the block off to the side, and then let's come up for one more bridge with your feet closer to hip width distance, your knees just in line with your hips, and then pressing your feet and coming up slowly. And when you've come up as far as you are going to at this moment, then see if there's space there for you to interlock your hands underneath you. Do a little bit of a shoulder roll, shoulder to shoulder. Press your feet. And then let's hold just for another couple of breaths and see if you can get a little bit more lift, not so much from the pubic bone, but from the outer hips. And pressing down through your arms, your wrists possibly. Release any tension around the front of your neck. And then loosen your hands and come down in the same fashion from the upper spine, mid spine, lower spine, and resting. All right, and then let's do a releasing twist or a rotation for your spine, and still with your feet on the floor near to your buttocks. Move your arms slightly away from the sides of your body and let your knees drop over to the right side. So you're starting from your both feet on the floor. Let the right knee drop out to whatever extent it can, and then see what it's like. Press back into your left foot, into the outline of your left foot. So your whole foot's on the floor. And then lift the left buttock a little bit. And if it's comfortable movement for your neck, allow your head to loll towards the left side. And then come back to center. Lift the knees back up to starting point. And then let the left knee drop off to the left. And then press your right foot into the floor. Lift up your right buttock so there's a little bit of a back arch on that side, and allow your head to roll to the right side. Good. Let's do that one more time each side. And in your own time. When you get to the right side and that right thigh is resting on the floor, let's do an overhead stretch and extend your left arm beyond your head along the floor, and extend the whole left side of your rib cage and your left waist. And then as you go now to the last side and to the left, right arm, reach it overhead, stretch away, look to that side. Keep the left shoulder relaxed, and then draw back to center and both arms alongside the body. And bring your knees right in, and small circles through rotating your knees. And exploring the movement through the back of your pelvis, your sacrum, knees the other way now. Okay, and then both feet on the floor and roll to the right. And let's come into child's pose. Your first child's pose, be kind to your knees. So you might, if you're averse to a lot of compression behind your knees, then you might just have your buttocks slightly elevated. And if you wish, then drawing the knees, the hips slowly back towards your heels or all the way back to your heels. And then we're going to do this in a particular way as a lateral movement. So draw your hands back slightly, then lift your chest and walk your hands around to the right side. You've already come into a lateral movement on that right side now. So the left ribs are getting a good stretch. And if you want to add a little bit more challenge here, you could rest your left hand on top of your right hand. Tuck your chin in towards your chest. And then if it feels like a comfortable next movement for you, you might be at your limit or you might be too far. You might have to back up a little bit. If it feels comfortable for you, take the next step. Lift your right ribs a little further to the right side. Good. And then let's walk it back all the way around. And read your body. This could be, as you explore the movement, completely different sensation than you did on the other side. And if you want to take that next interesting step, you can have your right hand on top of your left hand. Open up through that right side. If you like, lift up a little bit, bring kind of dragging the ribs across to the left a little bit more. Good. And then let's come back to center. And in the kind of classical child's pose with your arms extended, keep your elbows up a little bit so you can possibly stretch your shoulders, the outer shoulder blades more. And then finally, let's come up to standing in Tadasana. Okay, little wardrobe adjustments. I like this sideways stretch. Have your arms out to the side, bring your arms overhead. Right hand holds the left wrist. And then create a lean to the right side with a difference. You're going to keep your hips in the center and make this movement more addressing the dorsal thoracic or the chest generally. So it's a chest stretch. And then back up to center. Reverse the wrist hold, so left hand holding the right, over to the left side. Good. Make sure that your neck is supported. It could just rest on the lower arm. And back up. Good. Let's go once more to the right and over to the right. And your head resting towards the right arm. Good. Notice if your hips have shifted, and a way to check that is your weight even on both feet again. And then a little bit more reach through the shoulder blades and back to center. And once more left. Good. Breathing evenly, I would hope. And that last check, both feet, pressure the same, back to center. And releasing the arms down. Good. All right. Let's take a kneeling position, all fours onto your mat. I have double mats here, and that gives my knees a great deal of comfort. So that's something to think about, that once you're here, you might be staying for a few minutes, so make sure that you have enough padding for your knees. And then in the cat position, starting from neutral, let's take advantage of the movement of the spine in the two directions. So lifting the spine up towards the ceiling, creating a rainbow arc there, and then releasing the spine towards the floor. And alternating chin in as you lift the spine, and then leading with the sternum as you let the spine dip. And let's go back and forth. And after this one, then pausing neutral spine and centered. And then let's work with some strengthening movement and bringing the right knee off the floor. I'm going to bring knee towards your chest, head towards your knee. And knee comes in. And then extend that leg back behind you and lift your chest and lead with the sternum as you look out. And then knee comes in. Now use your body sense so that you're keeping the sacrum level with the ceiling as you do these movements. And we'll do a couple more. So it's natural to inhale as you extend the leg. Exhale as you lose a little bit more of your core, bringing the leg in. Good. And then come to a standstill. Notice if your hips shifted over to one side. So keep the hips in the center as much as possible as we continue. And how do you do that? You might want to switch on the outer hip muscles, the glute med muscles, like a girdle that holds your hips into center. And continuing on the left leg movement and bringing the knee in and extending. Just a really gentle movement. Right, and then taking pause again, noticing if the hips had shifted. And then let's take a break for wrists by coming down onto your elbows. And all these cat pose movements, if your wrists feel like they're sore when you go on, as we continue on for a few more in a few moments, stay on your elbows, stay on your forearms. That's fine to do these movements that way. Turn your palms towards the ceiling. And then see what there is to discover about those two movements. So the rotation of the palms upwards and downwards, and reflected in the forearm movement too. All right, and then coming back onto hands and knees, or you're on your elbows. And then let's continue with the leg extension and moving through flexion. Lift the right knee off the floor, bring it in towards your chest. Extend the right leg behind you, and then pause with the leg lifted. And then see if you need to correct a little bit through the hips. So the left hip active and coming into center to midline. And then I know that leg gets a little bit heavy at this point. And then replacing right knee to the floor. Left leg. And left leg coming up relatively high, maybe as high as your hip, but not higher. Beautiful. And left knee back on the floor. All right, let's go one more round. And when you extend the right leg back, we're going to alternately, no knee bend this time, raise and lower. So bring the right foot down towards the floor, flex the foot, and then raise the right leg up to hip height again. Touching down, just a light tap, and then raising. But tap, see what there is to discover in that movement for yourself about how the hips move, the buttocks move. Good. And then enough on that side. Right knee back to base, and then left leg. And left leg. And alternately, flex the left foot, toe tap, and raise. Good. Relax your shoulders. Like shoulders can be back, shoulder blades back. Good. One more time. And left knee back into position. And then take one of those wrist breaks onto your elbows. And when you turn your palms up towards the ceiling here, get a good thumb extension from the mound of your thumb to the tip of your thumb. All right, and now we're moving into downward facing dog pose and knees up. And we'll make this mostly about your shoulder stretch. So in a slight flexion through your knees, just a little bend there, and then a big stretch through your shoulders. Shoulders, shoulder blades, outer ribs, and then buttock bones. Lift them high towards the ceiling. Allow your head to dip. Good. And then little by little, straightening your legs. And take a moment to pedal your feet. So that that movement kind of ripples up through the pelvis, the lower spine. Good. And then coming to a standstill in dog pose, and that lovely stretch behind your legs. I think from the back of my knee to my heel, and then another dividing line back of my knee to my buttock bones, lifting them high. Good work. And then take a walk in and inhale and come up. Okay. And then just another stretch for your wrists. Extend your arms out, just standing comfortably on your feet, feet a little bit apart, and extending your arms out, stretching to the tips of your fingers. Turn your palms upwards, and then open your hands so all fingers stretch, all of your thumbs stretch. Lift the breastplate high. Good. And then relax and shake it out. All right. So it's a very nice day here for doing salutes, I think. So it's been kind of cool weather and damp weather. We'll just bring a little bit of heat into the body. So take a position where you're facing the short end of the mat and standing on your 2 feet, a little bit apart. And then inhale your arms up. Exhale, take forward fold. Bring your hands onto your shin bones just below your knees. Straighten your arms, lift your chest. Concave your back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, bend your knees a little bit and come into chair pose and raise your arms forward and up. Palms face in now. And exhale, straight legs and your arms by your side. Inhale, stretch up, your legs are straight. Dive forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back, holding your legs. Exhale, releasing down. Keep your knees a little bit bent. Inhale, let's come into chair pose with your arms just by the sides of your cheeks. And let's hold that pose a little bit longer so that you can bring your buttocks back slightly. Reaching for that chair. And then exhale, lowering the arms and straight legs. Here we go again. Inhale, straight legs, straight arms up. Exhale, forward bend. Inhale, concave back. Feel like you're stretching your ribs out. Exhale, dropping forward. Inhale, bend your knees a little bit. Reach your arms forward and up. And then just take a moment longer. When you move your buttocks back slightly, you can add another interesting adjustment here. Move the heads of your shin bones back. So just underneath your knees. Beautiful. And exhale, forward and down. And relax. Right. I'm going to add dog pose in this round. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, downward facing dog pose. Inhale, coming back, Uttanasana, just walking forward. Inhale, chair pose, bringing your arms forward and up. Shin bones back. Exhale, arms down. And just to keep the interest level up, we'll add a plank pose this time. Inhale, straight leg. Exhale, forward bend. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, down dog. All right. Plank pose, bringing your chest forward. Tighten the kneecaps. Tighten the thigh muscles all around the thigh bone. Firm the buttocks. Exhale, roll back. Downward facing dog pose. Take a walk forward. Uttanasana, hanging forward from your hips. Chair pose. Here we go. Inhale. Exhale. Continuing. Inhale, straight legs, straight arms. Exhale, drop. Inhale, lift up. Beautiful. Exhale, down dog. Inhale, plank. Hold it, lift your navel. Exhale, down dog. That was so lovely. Let's do it again. Inhale, plank. Exhale, down dog. It's known that all good things happen in threes, so one more time. Plank pose. Lead with your breastbone. Exhale, down dog. Take a walk forward. Uttanasana. Actually, take a little break there and In Uttanasana, fold your arms so your hands rest in the crease of your elbows. And then explore the lengthening through the outer ribs, the outer shoulder blades. Release that weight of the head. Feel your elbows heavy. And then drop your arms. And coming up to chair pose, of course. Inhale. Buttocks back a little. Shin bones back a little bit. Navel back. Feel a really strong reach out to the tips of your fingers. There's weight, heavy weight through the heels. And exhale and release. Lovely. All right. And then let's just switch around to face the long end of the mat. And we're going to take up an Uttanasana again. And then have a block. And step your feet about hip width apart, maybe a little bit more than hip width apart. And holding the block, place it out at your arm's length distance in front of your right foot. And as long as you're down there and you've placed the block, then stay down. And place your right hand onto the top of the block. Now, by all means, bend your knees if you're having trouble reaching that height of the block. Otherwise, your legs relatively straight. And we're going to do a lateral movement here. So allow your trunk to drop towards the floor. Bend your left elbow and bring your left hand across to the outside of your right shin bone, ankle, someplace like that. And then if you flex your right elbow a little bit, you can drop down somewhat farther, perhaps, and turn towards the right leg. Turn towards the right side. And let's say the emphasis here is on opening up the left side of your rib cage. All right, and then release. And without coming up, you can just step the block across towards the left side, left hand onto the top of the block, right hand grasp your left leg. Then with the flex of your elbows, releasing the trunk down and turning slightly towards the left side. Good. And then coming back to center. And you might want to use the block to help you come up to a standstill, or just bend your knees and come all the way up. Leave that block in front of you on the carpet or on the mat, and then step out to a wider distance. In Sanskrit, this is called Prasarita Padottanasana, or wide leg forward fold. And then with your hands onto your hips, have a look at your foot position. We didn't do this movement in the session today, but it's a really nice movement. And you might roll through your ankles. So we roll in, and that's pronating, correct? And supinating. And when you've done that a few times, there's a place where you can land where you're on the both sides of your feet fairly evenly. Lift up your right heel, bring it a little bit wider, and your left heel too. And then see if you can, in your upright position, feel into the circumference of your footprint. Little toe, big toe, inner heel, outer heel. And as you sensitize your feet, how is that reflected in your leg muscles or your buttock muscles? Hopefully you're not clenching your buttocks. All right, and then we're going to take a forward bend again and folding from the hip fold. and finding where you can rest your hands on to the height of the block. And it's there, even though you might be supple enough to go all the way down and forward and down. Keep the block there and the height there so that you can lift up the chest and you feel buoyant through the sternum and able to move it forward. And feel those footprints and the firmness through your ankles. And see if you can push out through the outer arches of your feet without flattening the arch. Now we're going to do one of those lateral movements and a rotation. So keep the left hand on the top of the block. Bring your right hand onto your right hip and then turn towards the right side. So a little movement where you can work the pose from your shoulder and your elbow just by lifting them up a little bit more. Or you might want to, at this point, extend your right arm towards the ceiling. Not so happy in your shoulders, keep your hands onto your hip and your elbow bend. All right, and then switch it over. Beautiful. Making that rotation, that movement towards the left side. And left arm up. If you're ready to move in there, sometimes you just start to move that way and then you have to halt and take a step back, and that's fine to do too. Good, and then coming back to center. And then let's complete the pose here just by releasing down into a full forward bend. You could do that either without the block, just holding your legs, or just bringing your hands down to the floor. When you release the back of the neck, all the way, you're going to release it all the way to the crown of your head. All right, and I think that was a nice rest there, I hope. And then heel toe, bringing your feet into center, heel toe, until your feet are all the way back in. Bend your knees forward and slowly come up to standing. Good. And I think we can take a seated position now, and that might be with some support underneath your buttocks. I'm going to get a blanket for myself. Use a cushion, or you can sit on a block. Your legs straight out. And do you still have your strap with you? That's going to be very handy. All right, so some of the movements that we did in the session today, some of the exercises and poses, were to get us to the goal of this pose. And even though we're not meant to be goal-minded in yoga, you do have to do certain preparations. So let's bend your left leg and bend your left foot back towards your pubis, and the left knee out to the side. Take any support that you need for that knee if it's not a comfortable opening, or have the back of the knee open a little bit more. And then with the right leg, as though you were doing splits, you're going to take the right leg out to the right side. There's a distance between the knees now. Let's work with the strap again and pop the strap over your right foot. And when you're holding the belt, just move along the belt closer to your foot. Now your right arm and your right leg are one arm is above the right leg, so they're in line. And then keep your left hand onto your left hip. So you've done that lean out that just starts to open you up on that left rib side. That's what we're working on, that lateral bend. And just take it quietly, little by little. Yeah, and you might end up, if you're supple or you have very long arms, able to hold your foot. But that's not the goal. The goal is really just to discover that opening on the left side of your rib cage. So it's, for me, it's hip, waist, rib cage that's open. And then with your shoulders relaxed, then bend your left arm and then take that left arm out to the right side over your right arm. Good, and then come on up. So for me, that's a big stretch. I think we'll do this with repetition. Bend your right leg in, extend your left leg out to the left side. And then take your looped belt again. Left hand holding the belt, along the belt closer to your foot, the arm in line with your leg, and the right hand onto the right hip. And all you're doing is you're kind of yielding to gravity. You're allowing the trunk to come down towards the leg. And then as you've experienced that opening, perhaps to whatever degree you are on the right side of your body, then bring an extra into it and extend the right arm above the left arm. Good. And one more time to the right side. Now I can reach my foot now, so I'm going to discard the belt. But you keep working with it if you need that arm extension. And then as we lean out to the right side and add the extra stretch from the raised arm, notice where you're looking. So when we use a focus, sometimes in yoga it's called a drishti point. So if you're looking down, you're probably dropping your chest. So you could look out towards the horizon in front of you. Or if your neck moves easily here, then turning your gaze to look up. All right, enough of that. And then coming up, last side. Now, don't rush through this. Take the steps. So your left arm, and then slowly bringing your right arm up. And it's fine to leave that right hand onto your hip if that shoulder or one shoulder or the other doesn't enjoy stretching like that. And then notice where you're looking, down, forward, or maybe upwards. Good. If your shoulders release, you might find a little more stretch to the left side, and then up you come. And good work. And as you bring that leg in, both feet and legs together in the bent leg position, and then wrap your arms and give yourself a very encouraging hug, chin towards your chest. Relax your shoulders. We're moving in that direction at least. If there's anything in the way of bending forward here, then just enjoy that. Okay, good. And then release. And we're going to move into the yoga relaxation, but I'd like to stage it. So take what you need in the form of a blanket for or cushions for the back of your head and your neck, if you like having that. And we're going to stay in the bent leg position for another couple of minutes once you are lying down. So there's a little flurry of activity as you gather your props and start to settle into the lying down position. And I do encourage you here just to keep your legs bent with your feet on the floor near to your buttocks, feet slightly apart, knees resting towards each other. Sometimes we move into the relaxation in a kind of perfunctory way. And it means that we're not necessarily giving ourselves the best self-care or nourishing ourselves in the best way. So take time to do that for yourself with that bent leg position. Allow the back from your shoulders down to your hips to ease into the mat. And when you feel more settled in that part of your body, the back of your torso, then go on and extend out the legs one at a time. Or if it's more comfortable for your back, then keep the bent leg position. Or have a bolster underneath to support your legs. And as you settle in and move from where we have been active for a while, and not so much moving into being passive, but rather to be aware and awake in a very relaxed way. So take time to do a body scan. From your feet up to your head. And relaxing all of those parts. Bringing attention especially to your facial features and giving a little bit of time to soften those features. the lips, the inside of your mouth, corners of your nose, your eyes, and to help relax the brain, relax your forehead, and especially your temples, the skin on your temples, soft and sensitive, and releasing the brain into the back of the skull, the back base of the skull, and all the way through the spinal column, down to the tailbone. And we're just here very close to the end of the Shavasana, all too short perhaps. And so as you begin to resurface and think about moving before you actually do, begin to make some small movements. Might be nice, given the exercises that we've done, to do an overhead stretch just with one arm, as though you're doing your morning yawn in bed, one arm, and releasing that one, and then the other one. And then as you fold your arms in, rolling onto one side, and pausing to give yourself a hug there in the fetal position. And coming up gradually to take a seat all together. A very special time when we come together in this unusual way. And lately I've been doing a reflection at the end of my practice. So you might want to do this with me. You bring your hands up and place them over your heart or in prayer position, and close your eyes again. And the reflection is on the consideration of how you got to yoga in the first place. There's always a person or a reason that you came. And I had a very dear friend when I still lived in the States, and she really pushed me, cajoled me, prompted me to come to my first yoga class, and I'm eternally grateful. So you might have somebody like that in your life. And then what happens after that is you start to develop friends within that class or in that school or in that circle that we call community, and that extrapolates to being a very big group. And here we are. So gratitude for our community. Namaste. Thank you.